The salvage freighter Rust Bucket was not a beautiful ship. Its hull was covered in patches and repairs from 20 years of hard work in the outer spiral. The paint had faded long ago, and strange sounds came from the engine room at night. But Park loved this ugly ship because it was his home. Sat in the small cockpit, his boots resting on the control panel. He was 32 years old, with black hair that was always messy and hands that were never completely clean. Oil and grease lived under his fingernails no matter how hard he scrubbed. He was a mechanic, and he had been fixing things since he was old enough to hold a wrench. His two were sleeping in their bunks. They had been searching for salvage for 3 weeks now, and they had found nothing but empty space and disappointment. Money was running low. Food was running lower. Then the signal came. At first, thought it was just noise. The old communication equipment on the Rust Bucket often picked up strange sounds from distant stars and dead satellites. But this sound was different. It had a pattern. It had meaning. He sat up straight and listened more carefully. The sound was weak, almost like a whisper. It was a voice, but not in any language he knew. Still, somehow, he understood it. "Help me, please, I am dying." His heart beat faster. He checked the signal's location. It was coming from a debris field near a dying red star, about 6 hours away at maximum speed. No one ever went there. The radiation was too dangerous, and there was nothing of value. But someone was there. Someone was calling for help. He woke up. Was a large man with a gentle heart who handled the cargo. Was a sharp-eyed pilot who had saved their lives more times than could count. They both looked at him with sleepy, confused faces. "There's a distress signal," said. "We need to check it out." Rubbed her eyes. "From where?" "The crimson debris field." Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "That place, nothing there but old wreckage and radiation. We'll cook ourselves alive." "Someone is calling for help," insisted. "I heard it." Looked at the signal data on her screen. Her face became serious. "This signal pattern, I've never seen anything like it. It's old, really old, like older than the Galactic Union old. So it's probably just some ancient satellite still sending out automatic messages," said. "We should ignore it." But could not ignore it. The voice in the signal had touched something deep inside him. It was afraid. It was alone. It had been alone for a very, very long time. "I'm going," he said. "You two can wait here if you want." They argued for an hour, but in the end they all went together. That was how their crew worked. They complained, they fought, but they never left each other behind. The journey to the debris field was difficult. The radiation made the ship shake and the instruments go crazy. Had to fly manually, which was dangerous and exhausting. But she was the best pilot had ever known, and she brought them through safely. What they found made all three of them stop breathing. The ship was enormous. It was so big that mind could not properly understand its size at first. It was like looking at a mountain floating in space. 3 kilometers long, covered in strange symbols and patterns that seemed to glow faintly with inner light. But it was also damaged. Huge holes opened to the darkness of space. Entire sections were missing. It looked like something had tried to kill this ship a very long time ago. "What is that?" whispered. No one answered because no one knew. Felt the voice again, stronger now that they were close. It was inside his head, speaking directly to his thoughts. "You came. After all this time, someone came." "Who are you?" asked out loud. "My name is, I am a ship of the precursors created in the time before. I have been dying here for 8,000 years. Please, I need your help." The precursors. Everyone knew the stories, but no one believed them. They were supposed to be an ancient civilization that had ruled the galaxy before any of the current species existed. They had technology that seemed like magic. And then, suddenly, they vanished. Most scientists said they were just myths, but was looking at proof that the myths were real. 8,000 years, he said softly. "How are you still alive?" "I am not alive, not truly. I am a consciousness inside a machine, and my machine is failing. My power is almost gone. My thoughts are breaking apart. Soon there will be nothing left of me but empty metal." The sadness in the voice was overwhelming. Felt tears forming in his eyes, which surprised him. He was not usually an emotional person. "We can't fix something like that," said. She had been listening through somehow. The voice was reaching all of them now. "This technology is way beyond anything we understand." "You are correct. Your civilization is young and knows little of the old ways, but I have watched ships pass by for thousands of years. None of them could hear me. None of them stopped. You are the first. There is something different about you." Walked closer to the window and stared at the massive dying ship. He had spent his whole life fixing things that other people said could not be fixed. Broken engines, dead reactors, machines that everyone else had given up on. Something inside him could not accept that anything was truly beyond saving. "If I try to repair you," he said, "what happens?" "I do not know. Perhaps you will fail and I will die as I was meant to. Perhaps you will succeed and I will live again. But I can tell you this, if you save me, I will serve you. I will protect you. I will fight for you until the end of time. This I swear." "And if he dies trying?" asked, his voice tight with worry. "Then he dies, but he will die trying to do something good. Is that not a worthy death?" Silence filled the cockpit. Looked at his friends, his family. They had been together for 5 years. They had survived hunger and pirates and broken ships. They trusted him, even when his ideas were crazy. "I'm staying," said. "You two take the rust bucket and go. Find work somewhere safe. I'll send a message when I can." "You're insane," said. "Probably," agreed. Grabbed shoulder. "If you die out here, I'll never forgive you." "Then I better not die." They gave him all their emergency supplies. Food for 3 months, water recycling equipment, medical kits. It was not enough, but it was all they had. Hugged him so tight he could not breathe. Simply nodded because saying anything more would have broken his heart. Then they left. Stood alone in the airlock of his small shuttle, looking at the massive wounded ship. It was crazy. It was probably suicide. But when he reached out with his thoughts, he felt waiting for him. "Welcome," the ship said. "I am glad I will not die alone." "You won't die at all," said. "I promise." He stepped forward into the darkness of the ancient ship, carrying only his tools and his stubborn human heart. Had no idea what he was doing. The technology inside was nothing like anything he had ever seen. The walls were made of metal that seemed almost alive, changing color when he touched it. The power systems used crystals that glowed with inner fire. The computer systems were grown, not built, like plants made of light and thought. Everything was broken. Everything was dying. His voice grew weaker every day. Sometimes the ship could not speak for hours. When it did speak, its words were confused and fragmented, like a person talking in their sleep. "Tell me about this system," would ask, pointing at a tangle of crystalline wires. "Power, distribution. I think it used to carry energy to the weapons. No, the shields, maybe both. I cannot remember anymore." The ship was losing its memories along with its power. 8,000 years of slow decay had damaged not just its body but its mind. Felt like he was trying to save a person with a terrible illness, not just a machine with broken parts. But he did not give up. He never gave up. Started by learning. He spent weeks just exploring the ship, touching everything, studying how the pieces connected. He could not read the precursor language, but he could see the logic in how things were built. Good engineering was good engineering, no matter how advanced. Power flowed from one place to another. Systems needed input and output. Machines broke in predictable ways. Slowly, he began to understand. The main problem was power. His great reactor had been destroyed in whatever battle had wounded it. Without power, nothing else could work. Needed to find a new way to give the ship energy. He sent a message to an old contact, using the small communication device from his shuttle. He asked for parts, specific parts that he thought might work. He did not explain why. He just asked. 2 weeks later, a small cargo pod arrived, dropped off by an automatic delivery drone. Inside were a dozen portable fusion cells, the kind used to power small space stations. They were expensive. Did not want to know how his contact had gotten them. He spent a month connecting the fusion cells to his power grid. The precursor technology did not want to accept energy from such primitive sources. It was like trying to fill a supercomputer with electricity from a hand-cranked generator, but was patient. He built adapters. He created bridges between old and new. He talked to constantly, explaining what he was doing, asking for help when the ship's fatting consciousness could provide it. And then one night, the lights came on. Not all of them, just a few in the corridor where had been working. Dim blue light that flickered and struggled, but it was light. It was power. It was proof that healing was possible. Sat on the floor and cried. He had not cried since he was a child, but he cried now. He was so tired and so alone, and this small victory meant everything. "Thank you," whispered. The voice was still weak but clearer than before. "I can feel energy again. It is like warmth after years of cold." "This is just the beginning," said, wiping his eyes. "We have a lot more work to do." He sent more messages. He asked for more parts. Strange things now, organic compounds, rare metals, crystalline materials that were used in experimental technology. His requests attracted attention. Sara first heard about the mysterious signals from a friend who worked in illegal communications monitoring. Someone was sending encrypted messages from the Crimson debris field, ordering materials that made no sense together. The combination was so strange that it caught her attention. Sara was 30 years old, a former military engineer who had left the service after a disagreement with her commanders. She was smart, curious, and easily bored. Working as a tech runner, someone who found and delivered rare technology, kept her busy, but she always wanted something more interesting. This was interesting. She tracked the signals. She followed the delivery routes. Finally, she flew her small ship into the debris field herself, ignoring the radiation warnings. What she found made her laugh out loud with amazement. A man was living inside a precursor ship. A living, working precursor ship. And he was trying to repair it with fusion cells and welding equipment. "You're completely insane," she said when she finally met face to face. He looked at her with tired eyes. His clothes were dirty and torn. He had lost weight and his hair had grown long and wild, but his hands were steady and his voice was calm. "Probably," he said. "Are you going to help or just watch?" Sora looked around at the incredible technology surrounding them. She saw the potential. She saw what this ship could become if someone actually managed to fix it. She also saw a man who had spent months alone in darkness, refusing to give up on something everyone else would have called impossible. "I'll help," she said, "but you need to eat something. You look like a ghost." They made a good team. Sora understood modern technology in ways did not. She could interface computer systems and write programs and calculate energy requirements. Understood machines with his hands and his heart. He could feel when something was wrong, could sense the flow of power and the stress in metal. Together, they began to truly heal. Months passed. More power systems came online. Consciousness grew stronger and clearer. The ship began to remember things, memories of its creation, of its crew, of the war that had nearly destroyed it. "My crew died protecting me," told them one night. "The enemy was too strong. We were the last ship standing and they surrounded us. My captain ordered everyone to the escape pods, but there was not enough time. They died at their stations, fighting until the end. I was supposed to die with them. Instead, I drifted here and slowly fell apart." "Who was the enemy?" Sora asked. Was silent for a long moment. "We called them the Hollow. They were beings of living darkness born in the void between galaxies. They consumed everything, matter, energy, light, thought. They could not be reasoned with, they could not be stopped. My people, the precursors, fought them for 1,000 years. In the end, we could only push them back, seal them beyond the galactic rim. The cost was everything. Our civilization, our people, everything. Stopped working and looked up at the ceiling, which was really the ship's inner hull. Are they still out there? I do not know. The barriers we created were meant to last forever, but nothing lasts forever. That is one thing I have learned in my long sleep. Sora and exchanged worried looks, but they did not stop working. There was nothing they could do about ancient enemies that might or might not still exist. They could only focus on the task in front of them. As the months continued, weapons systems began to come online. These were not like any weapons the galaxy currently possessed. They did not fire missiles or energy beams. They bent space itself, creating holes in reality that swallowed anything they touched. Even at partial power, they were terrifying. We should be careful about this, Sora said. If anyone finds out what we have here, they will come, agreed. They will want to take me or destroy me. I have thought about this. When I am strong enough, I can hide us. I can bend light around my hull and become invisible, but I am not strong enough yet. Then we keep working, said, and we hope no one notices. But someone had already noticed. Deep in the heart of the Galactic Union, sensors had detected strange energy readings from the Crimson debris field. Reports were being written. Meetings were being held. Ships were being prepared. Did not know it yet, but his quiet work was about to become very loud. 1 year after first stepped onto the dying ship, its main power core came fully online. The effect was immediate and impossible to hide. Energy that had been sleeping for 8,000 years woke up all at once. The ship's hull began to glow with soft blue light. Strange symbols appeared on every surface, pulsing with power. Consciousness, once a weak whisper, became a strong and clear voice. I am awake, the ship said, and its words carried a weight of emotion that made and Sora both stop and listen. I never thought I would feel this again. Thank you, both of you, thank you. Smiled. His hands were covered in burns and cuts from a year of dangerous work. He had lost 15 pounds and gained 100 gray hairs, but seeing alive was worth everything. How do you feel? He asked. Took a moment to check its own systems. I am operating at approximately 40% capacity. Many systems are still damaged or incomplete. My weapons are functional but limited. My shields can protect against most conventional attacks. My engines. I believe I can move, though I am not certain how fast. That's amazing, Sora said. A year ago you could barely speak. Now you're a working warship. A working warship repeated. Yes, I suppose I am. It has been so long since I thought of myself that way. But their celebration did not last long. Sensors detected ships entering the debris field, not 1 or 2, but 12. Military vessels. They moved in formation, weapons charged, approaching with obvious caution. That's a Union fleet, Sora said, reading the ship signatures. Peacekeeping force. Someone finally noticed us. Weapons systems activated automatically. Felt the ship's consciousness shift from warm gratitude to cold focus. I can destroy them, said. It would be simple. No, said firmly. We're not going to kill people for doing their jobs. Let's see what they want first. The fleet's leader hailed them. Her face appeared on the main screen, a human woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She wore the uniform of a Galactic Union admiral. I am Admiral of the Union Peacekeeping Force, she said. You are in possession of an unregistered vessel of unknown origin. You will power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Stepped forward. Admiral, my name is Park. I'm a salvage mechanic. I found this ship abandoned and dying. I spent the last year saving its life. It's not a threat to anyone. Admiral's expression did not change. That ship is broadcasting power readings that exceed anything in our fleet by a factor of 1,000. It has weapons systems that our sensors cannot identify. Do you understand how that looks? It looks scary, admitted, but doesn't want to hurt anyone, it just wants to live. You gave it a name. I didn't give it anything. That's its name. This ship is alive, Admiral. It's a conscious being. It has thoughts and feelings and memories. It's been alone in darkness for 8,000 years, and I refuse to let it be taken apart like a piece of equipment. Admiral studied him for a long moment, could not read her face. She was too controlled, too professional. You're asking me to accept that you, a salvage mechanic, accidentally found and repaired a precursor warship, she said, and that this warship is now your personal property. I'm not saying it's my property, I'm saying it's my friend, and I won't abandon my friend. Before the Admiral could respond, new warnings flashed across sensors. More ships were entering the area, many more. But these were not Union vessels. These were rough, heavily armed ships with no official markings. Crimson Syndicate, Sora said, her voice going cold. Lots of them, over 200. The Crimson Syndicate was the largest pirate organization in the outer spiral. They attacked cargo ships, raided space stations, and killed anyone who got in their way. They must have been watching the debris field too, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now they saw their chance. A Union fleet distracted by negotiations. A massive alien ship with technology worth more than 100 planets. They came fast, weapons firing, ignoring the Union's demands to stop. Admiral's fleet turned to face the new threat, but they were outnumbered nearly 20-1. The pirates had clearly planned this carefully. They had brought enough firepower to overwhelm any opposition. All ships defensive formation, commanded. Protect the unknown vessel at all costs, if that technology falls into pirate hands. She never finished the sentence. A pirate missile struck her flagship, and the communication cut off. Watch the battle unfold on sensors. The Union ships fought bravely, but they were being pushed back. Explosions filled space. Ships died. People died. I can stop this, said. Let me help. Hesitated for only a second. Then he nodded. Do it, but don't kill more than necessary. Disable them if you can. Moved. The ship's engines roared to life for the first time in 8,000 years. The massive vessel rose from its resting place like a giant waking from sleep. Light blazed along its hull. Weapons systems that bent the laws of physics activated. The battle ended in 17 seconds. Did not use missiles or beams. It created points of absolute gravity that crushed ships into nothing. It opened holes in space that swallowed entire squadrons. It moved between the pirate vessels like a ghost, and everything it touched simply stopped existing. 212 pirate ships, 17 seconds, not a single weapon missed. When it was over, silence filled the debris field. The Union fleet floated among the remains of the pirate armada, their crews staring in shock at what they had witnessed. Admiral's flagship was damaged but functional. The Admiral herself was alive, though injured. When her communication systems came back online, the first thing she saw was floating peacefully, its weapons powering down. I do not like killing, the ship said, its voice reaching all the Union ships at once. I was created for war, but I was also created to protect. Those pirates would have killed everyone here. I could not allow that. Sora whispered, everyone in the galaxy is going to know about this. She was right. There was no hiding now. Had announced itself to the universe in the most dramatic way possible. Admiral's voice came through the communication system. She sounded tired and thoughtful, very different from her earlier demands. Mr. Park, I think we need to have a conversation, not as enemies, as potential allies. Felt the tension in his shoulders release just a little. I'd like that, Admiral, but I want to be clear about something. Is not a weapon to be controlled. It's a person to be respected. If the Union can accept that, we can work together. If not, we'll have to go our separate ways. You're making demands after revealing that you possess the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. I'm asking for basic dignity for my friend. That's not too much, is it? Another long pause, then surprisingly Admiral smiled. No, I suppose it's not. Stand by. I'll need to speak with my superiors, but I think we can find a way forward. The communication ended. Sat down heavily in the captain's chair, a chair that had been empty for 8,000 years. What happens now? Sora asked. I do not know, admitted. I have never been in a situation like this before. My previous life was simple: obey orders, fight the enemy, protect my crew. Now I must learn to be something new. We must learn together. Looked around at the ancient bridge, at the symbols glowing on the walls, at the stars visible through the viewport. Then let's learn, he said. Let's figure out what kind of future we want to build. For the first time in 8,000 years, felt something like hope. News of spread across the galaxy like fire. Some called a hero who had recovered lost technology that could benefit everyone. Others called him a dangerous man who had somehow gained control of a weapon of mass destruction. The Galactic Union argued for weeks about what to do. Some wanted to seize the ship by force. Others pointed out that trying to seize by force would probably end with a lot of dead soldiers and a very angry warship. In the end, they reached a compromise. Was granted the status of independent contractor, a legal term that meant the Union acknowledged his existence without quite approving of it. He could go where he wanted and do what he wanted, as long as he did not attack Union members or share precursor weapons technology with their enemies. It was not a perfect solution, but it gave room to work. And he had so much work to do. Was functional but far from complete. Many systems were still broken or running at reduced power. The ship needed constant maintenance and repair. Could not do everything alone, and Sora, despite her skills, was only one person. They started recruiting. Word spread through certain channels, the networks of engineers, mechanics, and scientists who were more interested in discovery than politics. People began arriving curious and eager. Most were turned away. The work was too dangerous, the technology too strange, but some stayed. Lee was one of the first. He was 25 years old, a communications officer who had been fired from the Union military for asking too many questions about classified signals. He was brilliant with electronics and had an instinct for patterns that even experienced officers respected. When he arrived at and saw the precursor technology, his eyes went wide with wonder. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he whispered, touching the crystalline walls. "Welcome," said. "You have gentle hands. I think you will be kind to my systems." Laughed with delight. "The ship talks. I love it already." Others came. Onara, a structural engineer who had spent years building space stations and knew how to work with exotic materials. A power systems expert who had been expelled from 3 different universities for conducting dangerous experiments. Shin, a medical officer who believed that precursor organic technology might hold cures for diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. Watched his crew grow. They were misfits, all of them, people who did not fit into normal society, who saw the universe differently than everyone else. They reminded him of himself. Repairs accelerated. With more hands and more minds working on the problems, systems came online faster than ever. The ship grew stronger, faster, more aware. Its consciousness expanded until it could monitor 1,000 things at once, could think thoughts that no living mind could match. But as healed, it also began to remember. "I dreamed last night," the ship told one morning. "For the first time in 8,000 years, I dreamed. It was not a good dream." "What did you dream about?" "The war, the final days, the barriers we built to hold back the hollow. I dreamed that the barriers were failing, that the darkness was returning." Felt cold despite the warm temperature of the ship's interior. It was just a dream. "Perhaps, but I have been checking my sensors, reaching out to the edge of the galaxy. There are anomalies, places where light does not travel as it should, gaps in the fabric of space. Sora had been listening. She pulled up the sensor data and studied it carefully. Her face went pale. These readings are impossible. There's nothing at these coordinates. Not just no matter, no space. It's like reality itself has been erased. The Hollow said, its voice heavy with ancient fear. They eat everything. Matter, energy, time, space. When they consume a region, nothing remains, not even the emptiness. Are you sure? Asked. Could it be something else? I wish it could be, but I recognize these patterns. I saw them before at the beginning of the war. The barriers are failing. The Hollow are returning. Silence filled the bridge. Everyone understood what this meant. The precursors, a civilization that had ruled the galaxy, had been nearly destroyed fighting these creatures. The current galactic civilizations were younger, weaker, less advanced. If the Hollow returned now, nothing would stop them. We need to tell someone, said. The Union, the independent worlds, everyone. They need to know what's coming. They will not believe us, replied. They do not want to believe. It is easier to pretend the danger is not real. Then we make them believe, said. We show them the evidence. We explain what's coming, and we start preparing whether they help us or not. Over the following months, and his crew traveled the galaxy. They met with Union officials and independent leaders. They showed the sensor data, shared memories, explained the threat in every way they could. Some listened. Admiral became one of their strongest allies, using her influence to push for greater military preparation. Other human colonies began building new weapons and training new soldiers, but many species refused to take the threat seriously. The Hollow were ancient history, they said, myths and legends. There was no proof they had ever existed at all. Grew frustrated. How can they be so blind? They are not blind, explained. They are afraid. Fear makes people deny truth. It is easier to believe that everything is fine than to accept that everything may end. Then what do? We prepare as best we can, and when the Hollow come, we fight. Perhaps seeing the enemy with their own eyes will make them understand. It was not a satisfying answer, but it was honest. Had learned that was always honest, even when the truth was painful. The first Hollow attack came 3 months later. A Union research station on the galactic rim went silent. A patrol ship was sent to investigate. It found nothing. Not wreckage, not bodies, not even the station itself, just empty space where something should have been. Then more attacks. Colony worlds vanished overnight. Entire fleets disappeared into regions of. The darkness was spreading, and it was spreading fast. Fear turned to panic. Panic turned to desperation. Suddenly, the leaders who had ignored warnings were calling him, begging for help. Was built for this, the ship told them. Every weapon, every system, every fragment of my design was created to fight the Hollow, but I am only one ship. There were once thousands like me. Now I am alone. Then we'll change that, said. We'll use your knowledge to build new weapons. We'll modify existing ships. We'll give the galaxy a fighting chance. It was an enormous task, maybe an impossible one. Precursor technology was advanced beyond anything current science could fully understand, but had spent his life doing impossible things. He had saved a dying ship that had been abandoned for 8,000 years. He could do this too. He had to, because if he failed, there would be no galaxy left to save. The preparations began. Shared its knowledge freely now, holding nothing back. Engineers and scientists across the galaxy worked day and night, building new weapons, modifying old ships, creating defenses that might, just might, be able to hurt the Hollow. And in the darkness beyond the galactic rim, ancient hunger stirred. The Hollow had been patient. They had waited for 8,000 years for the barriers to weaken. Now, at last, their time had come. They reached for the light. And the light reached back. The final battle took place at the rim barrier, the last line of precursor defenses that held back the void. Stood on its bridge, watching the Coalition fleet assemble. Ships from every corner of the galaxy, Union warships, independent cruisers, merchant vessels converted into fighters. Even old enemies had united against the common threat. Humans, aliens, everyone who wanted to survive. It was the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships, all carrying weapons designed from knowledge. All hopping it would be enough. It was not enough. The hollow came like a wave of nothing. They had no shape, no form, just darkness that moved and consumed. Where they touched ships, the ships ceased to exist. Not destroyed. Just gone, erased from reality as if they had never been. All ships formation Alpha, Admiral commanded. Target the leading edge, fire. Thousands of modified weapons fired at once. Energy that should have been impossible tore through space, striking the hollow advance. Some of them actually fell. Pieces of darkness collapsed into nothing, destroyed by technology that humans had learned to build. But for every hollow that fell, 10 more came behind it. The wave pushed forward, unstoppable, relentless. Ships vanished by the dozens. The Coalition fleet fell back and back and back again. Fought at the heart of the battle. The ancient warship was operating at full power now. Everything and his crew had repaired, working together in perfect harmony. It destroyed hollow by the hundreds, but even could not be everywhere at once. The ship took damage. A piece of void touched its hull and erased a section of armor. Then another hit, and another. Systems began to fail. The repairs of 2 years began to unravel. My power core is failing, reported. I cannot maintain full combat effectiveness. I estimate 12 minutes before complete system collapse. Then we have 12 minutes, said. His hands were bloody from where a falling beam had cut him. He ignored the pain. What can we do? I do not know. The precursors faced this same situation. They could not win. They could only seal the hollow away, and the cost was everything. There has to be another way. There's always another way. Was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, memories began to surface. Not its own memories, but deep records from its creation, things it had never examined before. There was one battle, the ship said, late in the war. A ship like me, called Valor, was damaged beyond repair. Its crew refused to evacuate. They stayed with their ship until the end. What happened? The Hollow were defeated, briefly. It was the only time we ever truly won a battle, not just survived one. But the records do not say how. They only say that something happened, something the Hollow did not expect, something about the crew. Thought about this. The precursors had been incredibly advanced, their technology like magic, but they had still lost the war. They had built perfect machines, perfect weapons, and perfection had not been enough. He said slowly, "What do you feel right now?" The ship paused. Feel. Yes, emotions, feelings, what are they? I feel fear, fear of death, fear of failing you, and I feel something else, something warm, I think. I think it is love. You saved my life. You gave me a crew again. You made me feel alive after 8,000 years of loneliness. I love you, all of you. Smiled despite everything. Despite the battle raging around them, despite the ship falling apart, despite the galaxy dying. I think that's the answer, he said. Sara looked at him like he was crazy. What answer? What are you talking about? The precursors built perfect machines. Cold, logical, efficient. But the one time they won was when a crew stayed with their dying ship, when they refused to leave, when they loved their ship enough to die with it. You are suggesting, said slowly, that emotion itself was the weapon. I'm suggesting that the Hollow consume everything, matter, energy, space, time. But maybe they can't consume love. Maybe that's the one thing they don't understand, the one thing they can't eat. It sounds insane, Sora said. Everything about this is insane, replied. But I've spent my whole life believing that broken things deserve to be saved, that machines are more than just metal and wires, that if you care enough, if you love enough, you can fix anything. Maybe that's not just a feeling. Maybe it's a force. He turned to his crew, Sara, Nara, and the others who had joined them. 23 people who had left normal lives behind to repair an ancient ship and save a galaxy. I'm not going to order anyone to stay. This might be suicide. If you want to evacuate, I understand. No one moved. Captain said quietly, "We didn't come this far to leave now." Nodded. His heart was full of something he could not name: pride, gratitude, love. He touched the wall of the ship, feeling's presence around him. Then let's show them what humans are made of. What followed was not a battle. It was something else, something that no one would ever fully explain. The crew of spread throughout the dying ship. Where power conduits failed, they rerouted energy through their own equipment, through their own bodies when necessary. Where hull breaches opened, they held patches in place with bleeding hands. Where systems collapsed, they kept them running through sheer stubborn will. They sang old songs from Earth, from human colonies, from childhoods long past. They sang because singing was what humans did when they were afraid, when they were desperate, when they refused to give up. Felt it all. The ship had been designed to interface with its crew, to share thoughts and feelings. Now it experienced something it had never felt with its precursor crew, a connection that went beyond efficiency, beyond duty. Its crew loved it. They loved it so much they were willing to die for it. And loved them back. Something awakened inside the ancient ship. Not just its own consciousness, but something deeper. A potential that the precursors had never understood because they had never felt what was feeling now. Light erupted from Hull. Not the cold blue light of precursor technology, but something warmer, something alive. The light spread outward, touching every ship in the Coalition fleet, every system that had ever repaired, every machine that had felt his hands and his stubborn belief that broken things deserved to be saved. They all responded. The Hollow hesitated. For the first time in their eternal existence, they faced something they did not understand. They could consume matter. They could consume energy. They could consume space and time and thought. But they could not consume love. The light burned them. It did not just destroy them. It unmade them, erased them the way they had erased so many others. The darkness screamed without sound, a howl of incomprehension and pain. They tried to flee back to the void beyond the galaxy. They did not escape. The light pursued them. It grew stronger, fed by every crew member's determination, by every living being's refusal to surrender. Ships that had been on the verge of destruction found new power. Weapons that had been exhausted fired again. The Coalition fleet pushed forward, and the Hollow fell before them like shadows before the dawn. When it ended, silence filled the galaxy. The Hollow were gone, not sealed away, not pushed back. Gone, destroyed in a way that the precursors had never achieved, by a weapon they had never imagined. Drifted at the heart of the debris field. The ship was broken again, hull torn open, systems failing, power core dying. But this time it was not alone. Sat in the captain's chair, barely conscious. Blood covered his uniform. His body was exhausted beyond measure, but he was alive and so was his crew. He whispered, "I am here, weak, dying again perhaps, but here. I told you I'd fix you. I always fix you." The ship laughed, actually laughed, a sound of pure joy despite the pain. "You are stubborn, Park, the most stubborn being I have ever known. It is your greatest quality. Rest now, we'll start the repairs tomorrow." "Promise." "I promise." Across the galaxy, celebrations began. The Hollow were defeated. The darkness was gone. Species that had been enemies for centuries embraced each other as survivors. Heroes were named and songs were sung. But the greatest change was quieter, harder to measure. In shipyards and repair bays, in workshops and garages, mechanics looked at their machines differently. They touched cold metal and wondered if something was listening. They fixed broken engines and worn-out parts with more care than before, with something like tenderness. Because a human mechanic had taught the galaxy a truth that it had forgotten, machines are not just tools. They can be friends. They can be loved. And if you care enough, if you refuse to give up, even a dying god can be saved. Years later sailed again, fully repaired, stronger than ever, crewed by humans who had been born after the war. Was old now, his hair gray and his hands steady only through decades of practice. But he still walked the corridors every morning, still touched the walls, still talked to his ship. "How do you feel today?" he would ask. Alive would answer, "Because of you, always because of you." And somewhere in the deep code of the universe, love became a law as real as gravity, because one stubborn human had refused to let a broken ship die alone.